strong opposition.
Welcome back. It's just coming to 10 p.m. in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, the commercial capital of Tanzania, where tallying of votes is beginning, as it is in many parts of that East African nation that went to the polls today. More than 22 million Tanzanians were expected to vote in the election that will usher in the country's fifth president. The vote generally went on peacefully, but sporadic violence and allegations of fraud were reported in parts of the country. The Electoral Commission is expected to announce the first set of results from tomorrow morning. The final vote is not expected until after 3 or 4 days, and we want to continue the analysis of that. And if you remember, around the 22nd, a little over a month ago, we had Victor Ateng here, who's from Toweza, East Africa, as a senior program officer, to talk about those opinion polls that had come out at the time, and was putting John Magufuli in the lead. But you also talked about a number of issues, you know, health, education, access to water. But just give us a sense of what has transpired over the last month since we had you here. Have many of the issues rang true? Have they not? What's your assessment after now the voting is complete?
Thank you so much for inviting me to the studio and inviting Toweza to talk about these issues. We did the poll about 48 days ago. We completed, that is the last day when we interviewed the last person, and we released that poll on 22nd of September. And what we did find out from that poll is citizens were talking about various issues as most pressing, and on the three main ones were health, water, and education. Whether that has changed since the time we released the poll and today, I don't think there could be, because politicians have been on the campaign trail between then and now. So the most important thing I think they have been doing is trying to tell Tanzanians what they're going to do to address those particular issues.
Very issue-driven, wouldn't you say?
Yes, because the two horses are campaigning like the opposition candidate, Ukawa candidate is campaigning on the platform of change, you know, and the incumbent, as we can call him, I don't know whether both are incumbents because they just, one is in CCM and the other one just left CCM the other day, but he's seen by many of the people we polled as a hard worker. So I'm not sure whether this is something that has been taken by the voters. So, but we are going to be able to see this tomorrow. Ask people who vote why they voted for those two candidates especially.
Absolutely. And you made an interesting point about both candidates speaking and standing on a platform of change. One of them, Lowassa, just left CCM literally months to the election in June, July this year. And you remember he was dogged by a political, a corruption scandal not too long ago. Let's speak first about Lowassa. Do you think he's been able to turn himself around?
Well, and that's the main reason he has to campaign, telling Tanzanians that he's going to bring about the change. In 2008, when he was Prime Minister, there was this power scandal between the Richmond Development Company from Houston, Texas, and TANESCO, and he had to resign. And that has really haunted him up to this election. So whether Tanzanians who are voting for him are going to put that the change is one thing that another research might have to establish.
And all will be known, I suppose, as the votes continue to come in. The two of them really were in CCM. Like you said, you were calling the two of them
so I don't know who is. It's very hard to tell.
Do you think people are able to distinguish between the two?
Unless you do some serious analysis, it is very hard to tell in the minds of the voters who they are treating as an incumbent. Because I am in CCM and the other person has left CCM. So who is the incumbent? It's very hard for me to tell, but I would be very interested in knowing what Tanzanians thought about that when they were deciding whether to vote for Magufuli or Lowassa.
Right. Voter turnout also. Could you talk to us about over the last elections? We don't know the numbers yet now, but what have the numbers been like in past elections?
Just like many Tanzanians, I'm looking forward to the results tomorrow so that we can see how the voter turnout is going to be, because this has been said by many analysts as one of those very competitive elections. Going back to history, the last three elections, in the year 2000 we had 84% voter turnout.
Wow.
That is of the people who are registered to vote.
Yes.
In 2005, we had 72%. So you see it went down. And then in 2010, we had 43% voter turnout.
That's
so
a significant drop over, over the years.
But it will be very interesting to see, because even when we did our own poll in Tanzania, it showed that many Tanzanians who were registered to vote were expressing the view that they were going to turn out to vote. So I would really like to see that tomorrow when the results are out.
Okay, a profile of the voters, we know majority are women and youth. Obviously, campaigning is over now, and you know the voters have decided. But how important is this demographic in it? And do you think the candidates were able to acquit themselves well to the women and the youth who form up a big bulk of the electorate?
You see, there's no significant age difference between the two candidates. One is 62 and the other one is 56, right? A 6-year difference. So, so whether or not the voters were considering this as a factor is one thing. But although when we did the poll, it showed some significant differences in terms of those who are supporting both candidates. There was a higher support from amongst the young people towards the Ukawa candidate, but not significantly much to cause worry for the other candidate. There was more support from and even more educated people, less educated people supporting him. So, but these were very small differences that cannot count in this case.
Were you able to find out why they were supporting the candidates they were, why the women were, you know, sort of favoring Magufuli? And,
in general terms, for the entire population that we voted, that we polled, people who supported Magufuli thought he is a very hard-working person. And those who supported Luwasa, of course, probably because he was already campaigning on the platform of change, gave that particular reason. We are going to vote for him because he's somebody who is going to bring change in Tanzania.
Right. Change versus hard work.
Change versus hard work. I don't know which one, how different they could be, because when if I'm hardworking, I'm going to do much more to transform.
Assessment of everything from the time you interviewed the last person 48 days ago to all of this happening now. Just give us your overall assessment as we conclude.
Well, I'm very concerned that I'm not concerned, but I'm curious as to whether Tanzanians who voted early today, thought that both candidates are incumbents. You know, like. Did they have that in mind? Did they take into consideration that both candidates just came, one is in CCM and the other one left CCM? So whom did they treat as the incumbent? That is one thing I'm really concerned about. I would be very much interested in asking them after this.
Right.
And then the other thing is how much of a difference did the age factor contribute to the voting today? Whom do they consider older or younger? Because we know that Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, and the President right now. The other thing is how much of a factor is the track record, because we know, for example, Magufuli has not had some allegations against him. If they're there, they're not so prominent as the one for the other Luwasa, because if somebody has a scandal and they resign, did they take that into consideration that this is somebody who has actually had some serious allegations against him, and did that determine whether they are going to vote for him or not? And if they voted for him, what was the other factor that made them vote for him?
Right.
Those are questions that I'm still asking myself as a person who is in Africa, you know.
Okay, all right, and some interesting issues. All will be revealed, results starting tomorrow, and the National Electoral Commission promises us that we'll have all the results, hopefully, by end of business day, Tuesday. We thank you very much for your time and for always being available and for availing your research and your knowledge to us. Victor Ratengo is a Senior Program Officer for Twaweza East Africa. We'll continue, of course, to speak to him and members of his team as we watch the events unfolding in Tanzania now that the voting is complete.